The marble lobby of Henderson Tech gleamed under crystal chandeliers, a temple of wealth where silk suits whispered past polished floors. Marcus Henderson, CEO and widower, adjusted his Patek Philippe watch, a nervous habit he'd developed since losing Elizabeth. His 3-year-old daughter, Lily, clutched his hand, her tiny fingers warm against his palm, the only real thing left in his sterile world of board meetings and quarterly reports. He'd built an empire, yes, but what did it matter when the woman he loved had slipped away, leaving behind only memories and this precious child who had her mother's eyes? Marcus navigated through the rotating doors, Lily bouncing beside him, her pink shoes lighting up with each step. The October afternoon stretched before. Then one of those rare moments when he'd cleared his schedule to simply be dad. No conference calls, no crisis management, just him and his daughter at the park, trying to fill the Elizabeth-shaped void that echoed through their mansion. "Daddy, swings!" Lily squealed, tugging him toward Central Park's playground. But she froze mid-stride. Across the fountain, sitting on a weathered bench with a paper bag lunch, was a woman who looked like she'd been folded by life itself. Her coat, though clean, was threadbare at the elbows. Her shoes, God, Marcus noticed with a pang, had been repaired with duct tape. Gray hair escaped a loose bun, framing a face that wore exhaustion like a second skin. Before Marcus could redirect her attention, Lily broke free and ran straight toward the woman. "No, sweetheart, come back." Marcus's heart lurched as he hurried after her, already forming the apology. He'd offer this stranger for his daughter's intrusion. But Lily had already climbed onto the bench beside the woman, chattering away with the fearless intimacy only children possess. "Hi, I'm Lily, that's my daddy. He's really tall. Do you like butterflies?" "I love butterflies." The woman's face transformed. Weathered lines softened into something like wonder as she looked at Lily, and tears, unbidden, unexpected, spilled down her cheeks. "Lily," she whispered, voice breaking. "Your name is Lily." Marcus reached them, professionally cordial. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Lily, we shouldn't bother. Mama told me that name before she went to heaven," Lily continued, oblivious to adult discomfort. "She said if I'm ever sad, I should talk to people who look lonely because everybody needs a friend." The woman pressed trembling fingers to her lips, shoulders shaking. Marcus crouched down, concerned now. "Are you all right? Can I—" She looked up at him, really looked, and recognition flooded her reddened eyes. "Mr. Henderson," she said quietly, "you don't remember me. Why would you? But I remember you." "I remember her." Ice water replaced the blood in Marcus's veins. "I'm sorry, have we—" "I was Elizabeth's nurse," she said, voice steady despite the tears. "During her final months. My name is Grace Palmer." The world tilted. Marcus gripped the bench to steady himself as memories cascaded. The hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers, Elizabeth's frail hand in his, the nurses who moved like ghosts through those terrible days. There had been so many faces, blurred by his grief and desperation. "Grace," he repeated, the name dragging something from his memory's depths. "Grace who—" "You were there. You were there that last night." She nodded. "I held her hand when you went to get coffee. She talked about Lily, about how she'd chosen the name because lilies symbolize purity and renewal. She made me promise—" Grace's voice cracked. "She made me promise that I'd pray for you both every single day. And I have, every morning and every night." Lily, sensing the weight of adult emotion, snuggled against Grace's side. "Don't be sad. Mama says heaven has the best gardens." Marcus's throat constricted. He'd been so consumed by loss, by the enormous machinery of his business empire, that he'd forgotten the people who'd witnessed his wife's final moments. This woman had held Elizabeth's hand when he couldn't bear to leave yet, couldn't bear to stay. "I don't understand," Marcus managed. "You're—" "Forgive me for asking, but what happened? You're clearly not working at the hospital anymore." Grace looked down at her worn hands, shame coloring her cheeks. "Budget cuts came 6 months after Elizabeth passed. I was one of the older nurses, so I was let go first. I've been looking for work, but at 63, hospitals want younger, cheaper staff. My savings ran out 4 months ago. I lost my apartment 3 weeks ago." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Here was a woman who'd given comfort to his dying wife, who'd kept a promise to pray for strangers, reduced to sleeping in shelters and eating lunch from a paper bag. "Where are you staying?" he asked, though he already knew the answer from the overstuffed tote bag, tucked beneath the bench. "There's a women's shelter on 52nd Street, Grace said quietly, dignity warring with desperation in her eyes. "They're very kind. I do volunteer work there in exchange for a bed. I'm trying to save enough for first and last month's rent." But she trailed off, the mathematics of poverty speaking louder than words. Lily had fallen asleep against Grace's shoulder, thumb in mouth, as peaceful as she ever was in her $1,000 nursery. Something about the image, his daughter finding such comfort with this near stranger, cracked something in Marcus's chest. "Grace," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I don't believe in coincidences. Elizabeth always said the universe has a way of bringing people together exactly when they need each other." Grace looked at him warily, hope and fear dancing in her eyes. "I need a live-in nanny," Marcus continued, the words tumbling out as the rightness of it crystallized in his mind. "Someone with medical training, experience, patience, someone who understands loss and gentleness. The position comes with a private apartment in our home, full benefits, and a salary that would make you comfortable. Very comfortable." "Mr. Henderson, I can't. You don't need to." "Please," he interrupted, surprised by the urgency in his own voice. "Let me do this. Not as charity, as gratitude for what you gave Elizabeth in her final hours. As an answer to your prayers, maybe. And honestly," he looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully for the first time in months without nightmares, "I think you might be exactly who we've needed all along." Grace wept then, really wept. The kind of soul-deep crying that comes when someone drowning finally breaks the surface. Marcus found himself crying, too, for Elizabeth, for the cruelty of a world that could discard someone so caregiving, for the strange mercy of this moment. "Okay," Grace whispered. "Okay, yes. Thank you." That was October. By December, their house had transformed. Grace's gentle presence filled spaces grief had hollowed out. She taught Lily to bake Elizabeth's favorite lemon cookies, using a recipe she'd memorized from their hospital room conversations. She organized the scattered photos Marcus couldn't bear to look at into albums that told Elizabeth's story with love instead of pain. On Christmas morning, Marcus found Grace in the kitchen at dawn, preparing breakfast and softly singing hymns. Lily ran in, squealing about Santa's visit, and threw her arms around both of them. "We're a family now, right, Daddy?" Lily asked, innocent and certain. Marcus looked at Grace, this woman who'd been invisible to a world too busy to see, who'd kept faith through poverty and loss, who'd somehow saved them as much as they'd saved her, and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. We're a family." Later, after presents were opened and laughter filled the house, Marcus stood by the window watching snow dust the manicured gardens. He thought about Elizabeth, about how she'd always seen people others overlooked, how she'd taught him that wealth meant nothing if it didn't serve love. Grace joined him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "She'd be proud of you," Grace said quietly. "Of the man you're choosing to be." "I think," Marcus replied, accepting the coffee, "she sent you to remind me. To remind us both that kindness is never wasted and people are never disposable, no matter what the balance sheets say." Outside, Lily made snow angels, her laughter bright as bells. And somewhere, Marcus liked to believe, Elizabeth smiled, knowing her family, expanded now, beautifully imperfect, would be okay. Because sometimes the universe does bring people together exactly when they need each other. Sometimes poverty and privilege meet on a park bench, bridged by a 3-year-old's innocent heart and a dying woman's final wish. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we remember that our humanity is the only currency that truly matters. And sometimes, just sometimes, remembering that changes everything.